This is Jake Roberts. But no doubt, you must be listening to the interactive interview, and you better keep listening.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio featuring the interactive interview right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. Today, we are joined by the original rock and roller of professional wrestling, the one and only rock and roll Buck Zumhofe of world-class and AWA fame. Be sure and check him out at rnrwrestling.com, his own promotion, Rock and Roll Wrestling. Stay tuned for that interview in its entirety, over 40 minutes, plus our wrestling BS banter right after. This is the Interactive Interview, Interactive Wrestling Radio, right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hi, gang. This is Mean Gene Okerlund from World Wrestling Entertainment, reminding you you're where it's at with the Interactive Interview right here online.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to WrestlingEpicenter.com and the Interactive Interview. On the Newsmaker line with us right now is the original rock and roller in professional wrestling, the one and only Buck Zumhofe. Buck, are you with us?
Very good. Hello, how are you tonight?
Good. We're doing great, and it's great to have you on the show. Been hearing a lot about your independent promotion up there, the Rock and Roll Wrestling, and basically, how you doing tonight?
Well, it's a funny thing, but, it's always when we wrestle, and I'm proud of it, not necessarily me, I believe because of our good wrestling fans all through America, all through the world, obviously. We here at Rock and Roll Wrestling are celebrating our 13th year in a row now without a weekend off, and I mean that by choice. We do that by choice. We try to wrestle every Friday, every Saturday, even run 2 or 3 towns in one night. We have my company has 4 wrestling rings or stages, whatever you want to call them. So we have the ability to run 2, 3, 4 shows in one evening, and I guess we live off a ring and a prayer. Thank God we're busier than heck. Awesome.
What do you attribute your success to?
Well, I believe, and I thank Vern Gagne for that, I believe that when my promotion calls a VFW or an American Legion or some organization that wants to fund or make money, I can say, yes, I am Rock and Roll Buck Zumhofe. I am legitimate. You've seen me on wrestling. I've been doing this for almost 40 years. I'm 2 years behind Ric Flair. I started in the same camp, the same training, the same business with Vern Gagne, and everybody heard and knows about that wrestling school where they beat the tar out of you. You bet. Ric Flair, Sergeant Slaughter, Playboy Buddy Rose, the list goes on, and I'm proud to say that I was one of them, along with Ricky Steamboat. He was in my camp that year, and also Scott Hogg Irwin, bless his soul. He's left us already for the big ring in the sky. But we were one of the 3 out of the many that came through that wrestling camp, and like I said before, we just came a year after Ric Flair, Greg Gagne, Jim Brunzell. So yes, I've been in this game for a long, long time, and that's what I think the reason that we are running is because, we're not, God, and I don't mean this bad, but we are not a bunch of nobodies out there trying to run some kind of a business that we don't know anything about. We've been in this business. I've been in this business. I'm 61. I've been in this business since I was 23 years old. So I like to believe me, of course, and my team and staff and all the people that work for me, we've got it under control, I guess.
Very cool, very cool. And is it still a family thing? Are you still doing it with your daughter?
Well, no, she decided a year ago that she's in her, women don't like to tell their age, but she's into her later 20s already. And, unfortunately, I guess women get this idea that, boy, my girlfriends and my girls' friends in college and high school, by the time they're in their late 20s, they got 2, 3 kids. They got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. Well, my daughter has no family at all, and she's in her late 20s, and she decided that she's going to get out of the business for a while. Now, I do not believe that she's out of the business.
Does anybody ever really get out of the business?
No, you never out of the business.
I was just going to ask that.
Right, that's true, too. About the time you think you're going to give it up, somebody calls you, and, well, it's either making the appearance or someplace you haven't been. That's why you want to go there. And, of course, it's always the money. Well, I mean, we have money, but it always seems like you can always use more, so that's the bottom line, obviously.
Very cool.
Now, for the wrestling fans out there who haven't checked out your promotion, what does your show offer that a bunch of other indie promotions out there don't?
Okay, well, here's, first of all, the biggest and important thing is that we sell fun.
Fun.
I don't try to promote even Vern Gagne's style of wrestling. And I'll tell you, and I shouldn't be telling people this because they'll take my method, but that's okay. When you go to a traditional wrestling match, let's get real, it's the good guy against the bad guy. And that's what Vern Gagne and Vince McMahon and God, everybody's been selling it forever. We do the same.
Right.
But in our first match, the good guy, we have what you call a traditional wrestling match, good guy, bad guy. But our second match usually is the girl and the good girl and the bad girl, which is still pretty traditional. But then we wing it with either one of we have 2 midget ladies and we have a handful of midget men.
Really?
So then, yes. So the big deal is that we'll make an issue out of it. This may be tonight an intergender match. This little midget girl, little person, I don't want to offend anybody. They're standing up for their honor, so they're going to wrestle the little midget fellow in kind of a mixed-up tag, which is very entertaining. And then during the match, one of the other people, before the end comes up, one of the other big bad person, she jumps in the ring or something like that, and then finally you're going to have good midget girl wrestling with the good guy against the bad midget guy, who then is wrestling with another good guy. So you end up with some kind of a mixed-up tag team match.
Really?
And you can say whatever you want because I don't care what you say. We are booked so heavily, I can't find enough talent. We have so many shows. So if we're doing it wrong, and there's other promotions that think we're nuts, fine. You just keep doing the bad guy against the good guy is the first match. The bad guy against the good guy is the second match. The bad guy against the good guy is the third match. And the bad guy against the good guy is the fourth match. And the bad guy, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And if you have talent that I believe my talent's really, really good, but they don't have television coverage. So if you don't have your guys on television regularly, so the audience knows who the villain is, knows who the good guy is, then you can sell that particular product. A lot of my boys have never been on television, so we have to go and re-educate the people that this show, you're going to spend your $10, $12, $15, $18, $20, $30, $40 tonight, but you're going to see some really good wrestling. Buck Zumhofe's going to wrestle this guy in an old-fashioned headlock takeover match. And then the beautiful girls are going to come in and they're going to give one of them, give the other one a rikishi, and you're going to see a little rear end or something. Then the midget comes in and bites the girl in the butt and chases her around the ring. So we make the people go, ooh, ah, and laugh. Yep. And when the show is over, they come to us and they say they have never seen anything like this in their life, and they cannot wait for us to come back. That is the bottom line.
Very cool, very cool. Now, you've had your own, aside from your promotion, you've had your own storied career that's lasted, like you said, nearly 40 years, and I would like to talk to you a little bit about some of those memories. I guess the first thing I'd like to ask you about is, you're considered to be one of the premier top high flyers, the light heavyweights of the 80s and the 70s and the 80s. Now, when you see where it's at now with the TNA X division and things like that, what do you think of the progression of the light heavyweights and the high-flying tactics in wrestling and what they are today?
Well, I think it's a good deal. First of all, because you have, I can name even my guys, a kid named Sammy Savard, for an example. He's from South Dakota. He wrestles for me occasionally. I have what you call, if you look on my site, the Lockhart brothers. Now, that's the problem. They're 6 foot tall, 5'11", 190 to 210 pounds. But these are the guys that can do, I mean, I'm not saying that a 280-pound guy cannot, but these are the guys that can still do the flying head scissors. Remember when Greg would give the guy, or whoever did it, would give a guy a flying head scissors, but at the same time he would have a headlock on the other guy, and he would pull both of them at the same time? Well, you hardly ever see that move anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So where the cruiserweight or the lightweight division comes in, I believe doesn't matter who cares because I'm 61, I don't care. But if you want to elevate your show, then you need to do almost, and I'm plugging Vern Gagne, God bless his soul, he's still with us, but he's in very, very bad shape. It's really too bad. He was a great name and a great asset to our business, believe it or not. But Vern Gagne would start out the show, let's say, with the rookies, his rookie of the year. I remember when Steamboat and we opened up every goddamn night, everywhere, all through the Midwest. Ricky Steamboat, Buck Rock and Roll Zumhofe, rookie of the year, that kind of stuff. Right. Then finally, in the middle, he would have Greg and Jim wrestling someone else for these high-flying style matches. So even though you had a professional wrestling match, it was different because the main event then was Mad Dog Vachon against the Crusher, Dick the Bruiser, Baron von Raschke. Now, you didn't see any wrestling at all in those matches. What they did is what we would call a hardcore or a cage-style match where they literally kicked the crap out of each other. And I don't care what you say about wrestling back then. To this day, I was in on it. I have 4 of my front teeth are false. They're knocked out. They've been kicked out. The wrestling back then it's the same nowadays, but back then it was more aggressive and it was more rough and it was more stiff. I wrestled Jerry Blackwell one night. Christ's sake, he hit me. I didn't wake up for 3 weeks. My goodness. But anyway, I'm just saying. And now we'll jump on to WWE a little bit. Yeah, it's good and it's tough, but boy, they kill themselves jumping off. They're tearing their heads off and all that crazy stuff. But they've taken the show business end of it, and wrestling has always been show business. But with Vern Gagne, you still had some pretty good solid matches. But now, they've taken the show business to the hilt. Holy balls! I thought there was a time when I carried a radio, people went crazy. That ain't nothing nowadays. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And one of the things you did that was part of entertainment early on was your matches with Bobby Heenan and the weasel suit and all that. And what are your memories of working with the great Bobby Heenan?
Well, I tell you what, I still to this day, how can you thank someone like that? I was starting I started 75, so in the spring of 1980, I came back from Honolulu. Now, in 1977, I started wearing the rock and roll suit, but it wasn't until the spring of 1980 when I came back to Minnesota where one of the boys mentioned that, you should have a cassette tape player or something. So we were thinking about, like a little tape player and putting it to the side. So and I had that big boombox at home, and I thought, well, hell, I'll just bring it along. That whole idea of carrying it on my shoulder and everything actually was a fluke. I mean, I just put it on my shoulder, and Gene Okerlund and everybody went nuts, started laughing, thought it was the craziest thing, and from that day on. But back to Bobby Heenan, even though I was in Texas and not Texas, but I was in Hawaii and in Vancouver and Portland and all over, I still, as far as the professional wrestling goes, I wasn't polished. I didn't quite understand the ring savvy and how to lead a match and how to lead a tag team or a six or do anything. And that's where Bobby Heenan and Ray Stevens and Nick Bockwinkel and all these guys. I wrestled all these guys every weekend someplace. And within a year or so, all of their tactics and all of their ways of wrestling, unless you're a complete idiot, you finally, wow, I see how this works. Wow, I've got it. But I'm in my 6th year of the business, and I finally realized that what it's all about. And thank God for that. I've carried that with me my whole career.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the rough training that you had, and you mentioned that it took you to the 6th year to fully get it. And I guess that kind of brings us to the modern day of wrestling. Do you think it's a little easier these days to get into wrestling, and do you think that
it's a lot easier?
Do you think the problem is today maybe don't have the experience and all that, and maybe that's why the product suffers a little bit? Maybe they don't have the polish that they should?
Well, here's what I did. I just put it in the internet last night. I'm looking for talent. Buck, you do radio? Somebody just asked me if I did radio. I'm on the radio right now, Pat. Pat Rose. I don't know who it is. But anyway, here's the problem. The man or the person or the company, not all of them, I don't want to get bit here, the majority of them don't care who you are or what you look like. as far as your wrestling ability, your size. I'm not picking on black or white or red. I got friends of every denomination and every color. I got friends, thank God for the wrestling business. I know everybody all over the place. Mm-hmm. But these guys, they see a $2,500 ticket or a $3,500 ticket, so they'll train this clown for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it takes just for the $3,500. When we went to camp, we had to pay a certain amount of money for 6 weeks. And if Vern Gagne didn't think we had what it takes, we didn't have to pay the other half of the amount. We were just done, period. No questions asked. Vern just kind of said to you, well, kid, I watched it for 6 weeks. I don't, I think you better go back to your job, bagging groceries or whatever you do, and this wrestling business is not for you. Nowadays, they would never say that because they're after the almighty dollar, and that's why we have a lot, not everybody, but we have a lot of guys in this business that should not be in the business. They have no business in this business, and it just tears me up. I haven't been there yet. I don't even know if I'm ever going to go. I'm still thinking about it. That business in Vegas, cauliflower ear, it's a wonderful thing. But one of the wrestlers asked, how many people here are wrestlers? And out of the whole 200-300 people, almost 90% of them put their hands up. Wrestlers? Wrestler for what? Or for who? It's too bad. There are the few out there, that have paid their dues and this and that. But if you got 300 people that come to this event, and one guy asked how many of you are wrestlers, and just about 90% of them said that they are wrestlers, and you don't even recognize them or ever seen them, it is actually too bad. Just my opinion. Doesn't mean anything.
Absolutely. And one of the guys that you came up with, you mentioned Steamboat and you mentioned Flair, but one of the guys you kind of helped yourself along the way was Hulk Hogan.
Right. Now, I'm not going to say that I helped him, but we all helped him. When he came up to Minneapolis, I think he worked in Florida and different places, but, he never really ever had a push. Now, being an opening wrestler and just getting your tail kicked every night of the week is a long shot different from being a main event, getting on television, cutting those interviews, and then wrestling with top talent. So you got Hulk. I like Hulk. I got nothing. Shit, he called me up. As a matter of fact, when he did that first reality TV show with the midgets, I sent him a bunch of my midgets down there, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah, that.
Oh, wow.
Starla Love, she worked for me. She was I don't know what the hell she was called on the show, but she was on that first one, on that Hulk Hogan reality thing with the midgets.
Yeah.
That little
micro championship wrestling.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Starla Love works for me every weekend. She's a good little gal, and I keep her on the road, so she's always busy. But anyway, that was actually one of the last times I talked to him. I sent those kids down there for that. But anyway, the deal is that now, let's not even pick on Hulk Hogan. Let's pick on anybody. We got some guy here. Let's just say a guy. He's 6'8". He's got the look. He's got the walk. He's got the talk. Now we want to put him into some kind of a top position. So it isn't just me, but Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell and myself and everybody that's in the locker room, who has to tag up with him or who has to referee the match or whatever. You have to go to Hulk Hogan or you have to go to whoever this person is. And we have to hope that they're willing, to listen and learn. If you would, and he did. He wanted to learn. He wanted to be part of the business. He's seen, he's not a fool. He could see the money and the stardom and all the stuff that was going to happen to him. But before he took that second step, he had to learn how to take the first steps, and he did. And I'm pretty proud of that. I think I helped him quite a bit. Those first matches we had is when my radio got busted on television. Hulk Hogan came in and saved the day.
Right.
So then me and Hulk, we hooked up, and then me and Hulk and Tito hooked up, and then Tito and Hulk hooked up because single matches, tag team matches, and six-man tag teams came out of that thing by the glory. I mean, we were booked for almost 3 years because of that one angle. So it was a great thing for everybody in real life.
Very cool. You made a big trip down. Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you talked about working with Hulk Hogan very early in his career, and I was reading up about you, and I read that you were the first person to be body bagged by The Undertaker, and you wrestled Triple H in his debut with the WWF. Did you picture them becoming the big stars that they eventually became?
Well, yeah, I think so. Well, let me see. The Undertaker, the Undertaker, as far as I'm concerned, or anybody's concerned, unless he retires pretty soon, he's locked into the WWF like milk and cereal, I guess. They'll always be there. And Triple H, well, where he's at now, he runs the show. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'm ever going to get anything anymore, but god dang it, I still wrestle every god darn weekend. I wrestle personally about 130 times a year. I still crawl in the ring every night, along with putting it up and taking it down and putting up the lights and the beer stand. And God, we do it all because we're a little small organization, so we do it all. But I always wish maybe I got that one big last hurrah where I could manage somebody or one. Who doesn't? Everybody that's in professional wrestling, once they have that last big hurrah, boy, and I'd like to get a hold of old Triple H, say, hey, I'm the one that puts you over on TV, god dang it, you owe me one. And then that silly article that came up in the newspaper in that wrestling WWF thing about me, I thought it was kind of comical that they mentioned my name on the TV show, and all of my darn computer I thought was going to explode. I had so many people. Did you hear your name on their TV? Did you hear your name? I said, well, I don't think it had really anything to do with anything. It just came up. But it was kind of comical because I got flooded with messages and stuff all about that.
Very cool. Yeah, they put your match with him on one of your DVDs, one of his DVDs, I should say.
Right.
So that's pretty. Hopefully, you got a royalty check out of that one.
Oh yeah, you bet. Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you that, and I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Like I said before, I kind of like where I'm at because I say what I say, and if somebody's offended, I don't care. What are you going to do? Come beat me up? I'm 61 years old. Give it your best shot. This is one thing I'll say about Vince McMahon. All the many times that I wrestle for him in dark matches and in these other matches where, I had to do what I had to do, he never stiffed me. I always got what I got coming. He always took care of our room. He took care of our trance. He paid us, and he was cordial to me. I don't know about anybody else, but he was cordial to me. He'd always thank me. He'd say, Buck, you did a good job. And I always told him, if you need a guy or a couple of guys, I have all kinds of people that will work. You give me a jingle, and I'll be more than happy to take care of you. So I have never, ever left the WWE or the WWF with bad words or I hate you or you screwed me, nothing like that. I always shook his hand. I always thanked him. He was always cordial to me regardless what people think about it. I don't care what people think about him because it doesn't matter to me, but he was always fair to me.
Very cool. Now, you worked for some of the biggest promoters ever. Vince McMahon, we just mentioned, Vern Gagne, another. You also worked for the Von Erichs in World Class, and was that a fun experience to be down there in that Dallas territory?
Well, the thing about the Von Erichs is that, I knew where I was. I accepted it. I knew we would never, ever, Iceman King Parsons and I were the Texas Tag Team Champions. The Long Riders put us over on that show in Texas where
How is King Parsons doing, by the way?
I type him all the time, and I never hear anything. I don't know if he's really disgusted with the business, and he doesn't want to have nothing to do with it anymore. There's only two things that can happen. Either you're so busy you don't have time to get back, or you're disgusted with everything that's going on, and you don't want to get back. Usually that's all it is.
Very cool. Sorry for interrupting.
So I'm hoping that he's busy. I type him now and then and say, hey, Iceman, give me. I'd actually like to bring him up here and book him on some of my shows, but he doesn't get back to me, so I don't know. And that's Steve. What's his name? The kid I used to have the lightweight championship matches against. Regal, not Steve Regal. The Steve Regal from Indiana.
Yeah, that's Steve Regal. Not the Englishman, but the other guy. Yeah.
Right. And I'd like to get a hold of him too and bring him up here. I think if we would do some shows, in the suburbs of Minneapolis, St. Paul, I think that people would probably enjoy seeing a good old, we would, it'd be a return of some kind of a cruiserweight type style match. But I haven't heard much from him neither, so I don't know,
Very good. I'm sorry for interrupting. What were you saying about you were under no illusion down in World Class? You knew where you were?
Oh, yeah. I was saying is that, I knew, you see, the Freebirds were there.
Right.
And they had all the angles going against, they even brought old man Fritz back out, for that Super Bowl Sunday thing. And they had all the things going on with all the Von Erichs. So I knew that as far as up the ladder I would ever be would be with Iceman, and we wrestled the Long Riders. And remember the PYTs?
Yeah.
Norvell, Austin,
Coco,
and Coco. They broke my radio down there. So we did that same bit. They busted the radio, and I chased them all over the place to get revenge. Boom, boom, boom. As a matter of fact, I don't remember which birthday it was, but it was my birthday, and about 30, 40 fans pooled their money, and they bought me a great big boom box. I got that on tape someplace. But I mean, as far as main event matches, we were the main event matches all through the territory, except Dallas and Fort Worth, because we would go down to San Antonio, and we would go down to Corpus and all them other towns, and then Iceman and myself, we would be like the main attraction, because the Von Erichs, they monopolized Dallas-Fort Worth, and they didn't really care about those other towns. So we knew that we were going to be the main eventers, and we were going to make the money we were going to make, and that's all the higher up the ladder we were going to get. There's no way I never wrestled Kerry or Kevin or any of them, because they had their own thing going with the Freebirds. So we knew where we were at in the show, so we didn't bite nobody's fingers. We didn't bite the hand that fed us, and I made my money. I was there for about 18 months,
right? Yeah.
About a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
And
cool.
then I came back to Minnesota, and then that's when the hard times come, because that's about the same time that Hogan pulled out from Vern, and then AWA from that day on obviously went down.
And that actually was kind of my next question. The late era of the AWA, you still can see it on TV now on the ESPN Classic. They still throw it up.
People call me and they still see some of my matches on there. It's comical a little bit, I guess.
But I mean, when you watch those, the commentator at the time was Eric Bischoff, and
right.
Bischoff, some of the times he sounded like he had a kind of like a male crush on you at times. He was rock and roll Doug Zumhofe, rock and roll.
I don't think so. He's never booked me for TNA.
That's what I was going to say. Why, with this guy who sounded like he sure as heck liked you a whole lot, how come you ended up at WCW or TNA?
I've tried to get a hold of what's his name with the tennis racket.
Jim Cornette.
Jimmy Cornette. Yeah, I used to wrestle with his guys in Texas all the time. And and not only that, but I type him on the internet. Say, if he wants, I got a kid I use quite a bit. We call him the Big Rig. He's legitimate, 7'1", 450 pounds. I use him. I suppose maybe two weekends out of every month. He's an excellent worker. He's like around 30 years old. He's as big as anybody on the WWF. And like I said before, I got those Lockharts. Now they're both a little smaller, but there's nobody. My Lockharts are just exactly like who was the Rock and Roll Express? What was their names?
Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson.
Nope. Try the other one. The one that's in New York.
Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty.
That's it. Shawn. My kid is a spitting image of the Shawn Michaels.
There you go.
They're not related or anything. He's got the long hair. He's got the thin kind of, but you can see his little abs, and he's got little muscles, but he can do all of that stuff. I use him he has wrestled with me every weekend at least for the last 3 years. Every weekend.
Oh. Very cool, very cool. And, your roster is impressive. People can check it out. Is it Rock and the letter N?
Yeah, it's R&R, right, just the three letters.
RNRWrestling.com, right?
Yep, .com, yep, RNRWrestling.com. Now, here's something that we're willing to do. I mean, if there's somebody, a fair board or somebody, because my team we have a team, so we're not everybody. I mean, that's all we do is wrestle. We go out a lot of times on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As a matter of fact, I don't know if anybody's ever done this before. I may be wrong, but I had 8 guys on a show here about 3 weeks ago, and we had 4 shows on Saturday night. I had 4 different venues going. I had 32 guys on the road, 4 referees, 4 sound crews, 4 trucks, the whole works. We did outstanding. One night, we did her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of shows.
I don't even think Vince is. Most places run like 2 shows a night, but I got, like I said, I got 4 wrestling rings, and I had to buck out 2 of the rings. I had to rent some trucks because we just put the rings up on the trailers. So we had 2 trailers out and 2 what do you want to call them? Those big trucks that haul the stuff around.
Yeah, ring trucks. Yeah.
Yeah, ring trucks. There you go. So, but yeah, well, like I said before, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to be a smart ass. We got good fans. I got a good show. We've got girls, midgets, giants, rock and roll Buck Zumhofe. I occasionally, because I am in Minnesota, I occasionally bring in Greg Gagne, Jim Brunzell, the Baron von Raschke. These are, for me, they're kind of like local people, so I can bring them in pretty handily. We bring in.
How's Greg doing, by the way? Is he?
Greg is very good. Yeah, heck yeah. He likes to crawl in the ring during the main event and throw a drop kick still.
All right.
Well, we bring in. I had the Honky Tonk Man in. See, January, it's the eighth month. So about every other month I bring in the Honky Tonk Man, usually for a 3 or 4 banger.
See, now that's ironic. I got to say, that's ironic because you started wearing the jumpsuit well before they brought in the Honky Tonk Man, and I kind of was going to ask you, what was your impressions when you saw the WWF bringing a guy wearing?
Oh shit, I was mad as hell. At first, I never. This is funny because the Honky Tonk Man and I are pretty close. He's a little younger than me. But him and I started at the same time. He was up in Calgary when I was in Vancouver,
right.
like in the early '70s, late '70s. So he's been in the game, or him and I have been in the game at the same amount of time. We just never were in the same territories. Remember when they had territories?
Right.
So we just never were in the same territories. And then when he came along with the thing, well, I didn't blame him necessarily. I was a little teed off at Vince because, well, if you want a rock and roll guy, here I am. But I, through it all, and God, this sounds crazy. I mean, really, if you think about it. Through it all, if Vince wouldn't have taken and more or less redesigned wrestling, is what he did. I mean, he took it all.
Right.
And if Vern Gagne and if that wouldn't have happened, then Vern Gagne would still be existing today. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Then if that's true, Greg Gagne or Nick Bockwinkel or somebody would be running All-Star Wrestling or the AWA, right?
Right.
Now, if that was true, then I would be an employee of All-Star Wrestling or AWA. So through it all, once upon a time, I thought this was the worst, horrible thing that Vince ever did. But I like to look at it through the rose-colored glasses. If Vince would have never did what he did, then I wouldn't be here today. And don't get me wrong, but I'm happy where I'm at. I got an office. I got 4 rings. I got a garage, a great big warehouse garage. If I have to, if I get a couple young midgets, or I get a giant, or someone who I think is going to make me money, and he's going to be special just for me, I will put the ring up in my shed back, my big barn back here, and I will train him myself. Now, I'm not training him to go onto the road or go to Vince or go to Japan. I am training him to work for me. So what I'm saying is I've got all that. I've got the trucks, and I got the rings, and I got a beautiful home. I got an apartment or 2 I rent out. And all of this has happened since I started my own wrestling.
Right.
So I'm very, very grateful for just the way it is. Vince can have all them big towns, and he can have all those headaches, and he can do all that crap, while little rock and roll Buck Zumhofe, we're going to run our bars. If the bar has a dance hall in the back room and they can hold 300-400 people, we're going to go there. VFWs, American Legions, fundraisers for fire departments, fundraisers for rescue squads. We go to Sturgis. We go to motorcycle rallies all over up here, 5-6 states. We're so busy we can't turn around fast enough. Thank God.
You know, one of the things I loved, and I mentioned to you that I watched one of your interviews prior to this interview, I love that you pointed out that if you work an event that has a low ceiling, you have a ring that has a low mat.
Right.
We actually have here in Arizona, it's no longer running, unfortunately, a company that often played a local bar, and one of the very few local wrestlings in Arizona. Unfortunately, it's a very barren area around here. Anyway, they had the top rope, and when you stand on the top rope, the guys' heads were hitting the roof. So I mean, it's an inventive idea to plan for your surroundings.
Right. Well, not only that, but what I would call my midget ring. Are you sitting down?
Uh-huh.
The midget ring is 10 foot square.
Wow.
And the other ring is 12 foot square. The other ring is 14, and the other ring is 16. So not only that, but all these rings are different sizes. We called it pyramid wrestling a couple of times.
Right.
I put my 10 foot ring inside the 16 foot ring and had a battle royal. So when you fell out of if you fell out of the 10 foot ring into the 16 foot ring, you're still in the ring. So you had to jump down into the lower section and then take the guy and throw him out of the ring, out of the other section. So if you had your arms and you were holding on to the second rope, which is inside the ring, you could put the guy's feet over the top rope, which is on the outside, and then you could jump off the top rope, which is on top of the second ring, and give the guy an elbow or drop a leg on him while he's hanging on the ring ropes. It's unbelievable. We did about a dozen of them.
That's a cool idea, really. I'm surprised nobody else has.
Well, we've done some of it, but it's like, boy, you got to bring in 2 trucks and you got to load up 2 rings, and it's a lot of work. But we did all right with it, but it's a pain in the butt. That's why unless somebody really really wants it, then we do it. So we kind of left that alone. But it was heck something to see. I mean, it looks great on tape. The ring inside the ring, the whole bit, it's unbelievable.
Pat, what were you saying?
Hello?
No, I was just saying Vince might take that idea.
There you go. Vince might try it, yeah. Well, see what we've done that too, that 2-ring battle royal where you put the 2 rings alongside each other,
Yeah, like WCW used to do that.
Right, yeah. So what happened, we were going to do that, and then I realized, I said to the boys, I said, you know what, that damn little ring will fit inside there. Ha, ha, ha. So we gave it a try, and sure enough, we scored on it a couple of times, but,
cool.
We just never promoted it that much.
All right. Well, I got to tell you, it's been great talking to you so far, and I'm going to let you go in just a second, but I got a couple questions left for you, if you have a few more minutes for us.
Absolutely.
All right. I guess, again, it kind of plays on the no regrets kind of thing, but when you were working all those matches for the WWF, were you hoping that there'd be, more of a spot for you there, or was it
absolutely. I still wish, this seems crazy, but I'm trying to be, our game, to be a big mouth and a crazy guy with a radio, and then on the other hand try to be modest doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
But I'm trying to be modest. I've been in this game for 40 years. I know how to talk. I know, I can do all of that. I wish that maybe somebody find 2 young guys that can do the drop kicks and do the flying. Heck, I'll come on now. I'll wear my rock and roll suit. I'll wear a suit and a tie, whatever it takes. I'll go, baby, I got Mutt and Jeff here. They're the 2 best high flyers, and if I want to be a heel or a babyface, it doesn't matter to me. I still wish, just like everybody else in the world of wrestling, I still wish that I got that one, maybe 6 months yet, one last hurrah. Who doesn't? You got these guys who look at all them guys that are in the WWF for 2 or 3 years or whatever. Unless they're dead or they bought a bowling alley, there's something about this business. When you're in it, like you said before, you're in it. You're in it for life, unless I guess the bottom line is, if you didn't love it in the first place, then once you leave it, okay, you'll survive. But if you love this stuff like I do, I love professional wrestling.
Right. You
can't leave it. I'm going to be 62 years old, and people say, well, what, are you going to give it up? You're going to retire? Probably not. I'll probably be 72 years old. If God gives me the will and I can still walk and throw drop kicks, God damn it, I'll still be wrestling,
Very cool. Well, Bobby Heenan, early on, I've been doing this about 10 years, and early on I interviewed Bobby Heenan, and he gave me a couple quotes. Some of them I can't say on the air, but one of them I can, and one of them was that if you truly love this business, you'll be doing this forever. And you know what? 10 years later, I could say he's right. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because I don't want to say this sad, and I don't want to bring it up or nothing again, but earlier tonight when you started the conversation, you said it being a family business. I don't want to really, get into it, but my daughter see, she was going through college and all of that.
Right.
And it was a good way for her to make money, along with me, to help with the college fund and all of that.
Right.
So, and she always made it sound like she wanted to do this forever,
Right.
But I think in her heart, she maybe wanted to satisfy Daddy. And then after a while, when the money, because the college she's over, she has her degree, she can go out and get any kind of a job. So I believe that, and I'm sad. It broke my heart. I'm telling you, I'm still sad about it. But I think she was just pleasing Daddy. So she told, I love wrestling, and boy, Dad and I, we have all these good times, and we travel all over, and we did. But when it came down now, when the school is over and all of that, in her heart, I think she wanted to make Daddy happy, and she did. And I'm so happy for the years that we did work our wrestling together. And now she's in a different venture, and she has her own little life, and God bless her, and I'm doing this, and she'll do what she does, but I'll be doing this forever. So, what are you gonna do?
I didn't mean to bring you down. I apologize if I did.
No, it's all right. It's just kind of a sad thing, for some unknown reason, I thought I was going to retire, and maybe she was going to marry Triple H or something, and
I think that role's already taken. So.
I know it. I was being sarcastic.
All right. Well, I got one last name, and for some reason, I've always wondered your opinion of this person because they've always been such a powerful force along with Vern Gagne. Probably because he ironically married the daughter as well. Larry Zbyszko. How do you get along with Larry?
To tell you the truth, I like Larry. I think he's I haven't seen him work in a long time, but he's fabulous on the microphone.
Absolutely.
And you have to believe that the majority of the tickets sold at the wrestling show are off the microphone,
Right.
Probably even more than the actual wrestling on television. I think he's a terrific talker. I wrestled with him many, many, many times in the AWA, not anywhere else.
Right.
And I've always had extraordinary matches with him because he has all the, in our lingo, he has all the heat because of his personality and the way he talks, and I have all the sympathy of the people because they love me because I'm rock and roll. So it didn't matter if it was a big arena or a high school fundraiser. It didn't matter where I wrestled Larry Zbyszko. It was always a very, very fun, exciting, good tear the house down style match. So I have nothing bad. I don't really have nothing bad to say about 95% of the wrestlers. I think most of them are, most of us are in it for ourselves. We want to make a living, so we try to get as much money as we can. But what's wrong with that?
Absolutely.
Some guys have a little higher opinion of themselves than they do of other people. Well, you got to shake that off. That's just because that's the kind of people we deal with.
Right.
People with a low opinion of themselves. People that go, and I don't know, and I don't, da-da-da. They're never, ever going to be in this profession. You're going to have to deal with these kind of people,
Right.
That's the way it is.
Absolutely. Pat, did you have anything last to ask?
No, that's it for me, but thank you for spending all this time with us. It was very good.
Well, I enjoy. I guess what I'm still trying to do is promote my wrestling show, so anytime anybody gives me a jingle, it's all about rock and roll wrestling.
RNRWrestling.com, right?
RNRWrestling.com. And the bottom line is that in real life, I have a dozen or more wrestlers, like I said before, guys, girls, midgets, giants, you name it. And now all of these people, they have husbands or wives or boyfriends, girlfriends. They have kids. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you bet I have to go out and I have to make money in my company. But the money is not all mine. I got responsibility here. I got people that, they're going to chase and drive with me all night long and hang around me for 3 or 4 days. We have to have money to take care of all these people. So when the opportunity comes to advertise rock and roll wrestling, R&R wrestling, you bet. I'm out here. I'm a businessman. I have people to take care of. I got bills myself. So as far as that goes, we're going to keep plugging away and doing whatever it takes to keep rock and roll wrestling alive. And I appreciate guys like you to help me out. Thank you very much. Hey, this is Buck Rock and Roll Zumhofe. Do like I do. Listen to Interactive Interview every chance you get. Thank you.
Hi, this is Terry Reynolds, and you are listening to the Interactive Interview, and I love being interactive with these guys.
Hey, this is Chris Jericho of Fozzy, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview, and remember, we are huge rock stars.
And welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Interactive Interview at Internet Wrestling Radio at WrestlingEpicenter.com. I am Patrick Kelly, joined by Nick Knoll, and you just listened to a great interview here on the show.
Hello?
Oh, Nick, you there?
Yeah, my phone's kind of cutting out. Sorry, everyone.
That's okay, man. So how's your week been, Nick?
Pretty good. I'm glad it's over. There have been like 5 robberies in the area where my store is at, so I'm getting nervous.
Yeah, you've been held up twice, right?
Yep, twice at gunpoint.
Yeah, it's always fun. Yeah, worst thing that happened to me this week, I accidentally got invited to a baby shower, and I went, and it was weird.
Were you the only guy there, or were there other guys there?
No, I wasn't. I was able to huddle up with the husbands. We went down to the basement and just played Xbox while the girls did God knows whatever it was that they were doing, but, baby shower, cutesy stuff. So, yeah, I ended up having fun anyway, but it was just really weird that I was just one of, it was 3 guys, including me, and then about 35 women.
Well, at least you guys play Xbox.
Yes, absolutely. So, getting into the wrestling discussion, I guess we're going to center most of this around pay-per-views. We have a pay-per-view to review, which was TNA's Hardcore Justice, and a pay-per-view to preview, which is WWE's second biggest show of the year, SummerSlam, which they actually have a card for. They have 7 matches. I'm impressed.
Yeah. So I'll let you pick. Do you want to do the review or the preview first?
We can do the review first, since that show happened first, so it's probably better to talk about that.
Yep. And I'll say this, Hardcore Justice, very good pay-per-view. I don't think it can be great. You can call it great, but it was definitely well worth the money. I think that's about where TNA's had what we can definitely classify as good pay-per-views, and I loved the main event. I thought that was a perfect example of really working a crowd.
I really enjoyed the show too. I'm not as big a fan of TNA as you are, but lately their pay-per-views have greatly improved. Their television show is good. TNA's creatively, they've taken some major steps forward, and this show is another example. It wasn't as good as Slammiversary, which I thought was excellent, and it didn't have that special moment at the end like Destination X did, but it was just a solidly booked, entertaining wrestling show from start to finish, so I can't fault it for that.
Definitely, and kind of had some nice themes running throughout the night. I mean, we saw the Bound for Glory series kind of get reshaped a little bit. Guys that you kind of thought maybe were out of it kind of jumped themselves back into position, and you saw other guys maybe kind of missed out on their opportunity. Like a good example is AJ. He has kind of been bringing up the rear, but one of the guys bringing up the rear this whole series. Well, now he catapulted himself those 20 points, and I like that Mike Tenay pointed out, of all the guys in the Bound for Glory series, AJ has the most matches left, so he has the biggest opportunity to earn points and get into that Final Four.
Right, absolutely. And I got to say, since Rude lost in the main event, and we're probably going to get Storm and Rude at Bound for Glory, so Storm's probably not going to win it, that makes me think it's like, are they going to go with AJ as a potential winner?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of fans would love to see that. Just kind of, it would be like for a lot of internet fans, kind of a wet dream match, Austin Aries versus AJ Styles. And honestly, with Rude not regaining the world title, it opens it up. It could be anybody. It could be Samoa Joe. It could be Bully Ray. They could do some big twist, and it's Champ Hardy this whole time. They could do this big twist. I think what they're going to do is it might be whoever wins the Bound for Glory series will be revealed as the head of Aces and Eights.
That is something they could do, and that's something that I've been thinking too. And and before we get into talking about the Aces and Eights, because I definitely want to shift the discussion towards that as well, I will say that I'm putting this up there. I think the Bound for Glory series is one of the best ideas creatively that TNA has ever had. I think it just adds so much to the show.
Well, it's something we talk about a lot. We like to see wrestling booked more as a sport, and this does create a sports atmosphere for TNA where you are keeping track of the matches. You know, it definitely makes wins and losses mean a lot more, and it's something to get excited about. You know, I've been using the example the last couple of years in the NFL where you saw both the Packers and Giants, they went on these late in the season runs, and that was the most interesting story, and of course, both years they won the Super Bowl, so it's interesting to watch that and see what develops and think, well, okay, you know, this guy's got this many matches left, you know, he can definitely, you know, get in there. It's like, oh, you know, because I was just looking at the standings today, I'm like, kind of looking at him like, you know, Kurt Angle, I think, only has 2 matches left, so if they book him to lose those 2, that could actually mean he's out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I do like the changes that they made this year. I do like that they made it so that everybody has to wrestle each other. That everybody in the series has to wrestle each other once. Because last year, I think they did something where Gunner had like 17 matches, and some guys had as few as 9 or 10. And it's like, well, of course Gunner's one of the front runners. He had twice as many opportunities as most people. So they evened it out this year, and that makes it a lot more. It's a lot more structured, makes a lot more sense, and it comes off a lot better on TV as well.
Also, I mean, you also are seeing situations where everybody is getting an opportunity to get into these any matches that may not have, you know, may go beyond the normal points limit. Everyone gets an equal opportunity where it's like, okay, not just one match at the pay-per-view has a 20-point opportunity, 3 matches at the pay-per-view. So all 12 guys will have a chance to score 20 points.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, once again here, they've added a lot to Impact, and I thought on this pay-per-view, you got a good Falls Count Anywhere match where Rob Van Dam got to hit some crazy spots. You got a really fun tables match, and the ladder match was pretty sick too. So not only is it providing some sports logic and atmosphere to the show, it's also providing good matches.
It's providing good matches and easy booking opportunities as well, because you don't have to have, even though they do, you don't have to have unborn babies and biological tests and all that in every match. It's presenting itself in a way where the stories kind of write themselves. And, I mean, if you watch that match, who among us isn't watching what Aces and Eights does in the tables match and trying to see, are they helping Bully Ray? Are they helping James Storm? You know, maybe Jeff Hardy's the dark horse here. You know, who are they helping the more? It reminds you a lot of ways of the, and I hate to say it because we've seen so many attempts to recreate it, but it reminds you in a lot of ways of the very, very early days of the NWO.
Well, you know what? You're right that we've seen a lot of attempts to recreate it, but you know what? If you're booking something really well, it's also a compliment to say, hey, it reminds me of the early days of the NWO, because the early days of the NWO was some of the best booked wrestling in the last 25 years.
You're right.
Absolutely. And what I like about the Aces and Eights, and I guess we'll shift the discussion towards that, what I really like about it is that it's not the typical stable angle that I've gotten sick of where, you know, Nexus would come out and their music would hit and they'd come out and cut a promo, or I think TNA's had the Main Event Mafia and Immortal, and every show would just open up with the theme music hitting and them coming out for just, 20 guys roll out there to cut a promo, and that got tiresome really quick. But what they've done here with the Aces and Eights, A, we don't know who they are, which I really like, and that creates a lot of mystery. And as you alluded to, James, there's so many little clues here and there that I'm looking for to try and figure out who is the mastermind behind the whole thing. And you don't know when or where they're going to strike, and I like that. It creates this uneasy feeling where you have to pay attention throughout the entire show because you never know when they're going to pop up.
Well, I even say this. On last night, we're recording this on Friday. Last night on Impact, Sting said, "You know what, Aces and Eights? Next week's open fight night. How about you guys come out and fight us? We'll come down and fight you." To me, that felt like a big moment because, oh my God, these guys are actually going to get in the ring and wrestle someone? We haven't seen them do that yet. I wonder what it's going to be like. It's like they've kind of built a moment where you're like, yeah, you know, I do want to see the Aces and Eights have their first match because, you know, it's like we haven't actually seen them wrestle yet. All we've seen have been these gangland attacks.
Right, and the problem
And again,
is,
it gives you go ahead, James.
the reason why you want to watch as well is because we'll all be sitting there watching, well, this one moves like this, and this one, oh, look, that guy did a drop kick just the way Jeff Jarrett throws a drop kick. Or that guy used a big boot the way that Luke Gallows throws a big boot. You know, that must be who that is and things like that. You'll be trying to figure it out, see who's doing what, and that's a refreshing thing to be seeing. And mixing that with the Bound for Glory series does create a very good program. There's avenues for improvement. I think we can all name two of them, the Claire Angle and Brooke Hogan. But anything other than that,
Did you see her fall down?
I did not see her fall down.
Well, yeah, she introduced Tiffany and she slipped.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry, James. There's no improving Brooke Hogan. The only way to improve her is to fire her. She's not good. She is only there because of who her father is. You know, the Claire Lynch angle I actually said last night, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe we can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's it. That is easily the one thing that I hate. I absolutely cannot stand about Impact. It's like, it's time to wrap up the AJ Christopher Daniels feud forever. I mean, I love those two guys. They have great matches with one another, but it's been done 6 kajillion times.
They had a great match on Impact this week.
Right. It's been done. It's time to wrap it up, and I'll even say this. I love watching those guys wrestle. I want to see them start wrestling other people. I'm like, let's get Daniels and Kaz, you know, defending the tag team titles more often. Let's get, you know, AJ, you know, he'd be perfect for the Aces and Eights angle because, you know what? If there's a guy that's Mr. TNA, it's AJ Styles. So he should be involved in that. You know, it's like there's so much you can do, and I'm just like, okay, let's move on. And definitely, I mean, the Claire Lynch stuff is absolutely, positively horrible. They're trying to appeal to people that are soap opera fans. The problem is it's not a well-done soap opera. It's not really, I think it's not going to appeal to those fans. And all you're doing to a lot of, you know, people that are watching wrestling are like, oh, God, this sucks. She's a horrible actress.
I'll say that's the saving grace of that angle is Daniels and Cass being hilarious. That's like them saying like a funny line every now and then is like the saving grace of the whole thing. It's kind of like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, when Tori Wilson, Dawn Marie, and Tori's dad were doing that whole angle, it was unbearably bad, but Cole and Taz on commentary throughout those segments were actually pretty funny.
Yeah. But by the way, you know you're hitting a low if you're comparing it to, if you're trying to find a saving grace by comparing it to the Tori Wilson, Dawn Marie angle.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back to Brooke Hogan for a second, and I know, look, I don't like Brooke Hogan. I'm not trying to defend her or anything like that, but everybody talks about her like she's like this horrible part of the show. She's hardly ever on the show, so I mean, she might be in one. I mean, I think last night was probably the most airtime she ever got, and even that wasn't unbearably bad. So,
yeah, but
you know, I'm not. She's bad, but it's not bad enough to make me like dwell on her.
Well, I agree with that, Patrick, but it's also like this. You know, it's like to me the whole idea of she's the GM just for the knockouts. I'm like, so Hogan or Sting, or whoever is still in the GM role, can't govern the knockouts for what reason? It's like, to me, it's like it's an unneeded character, and it's like if you're going to do something like this, do it with someone that's good. I always feel like if you're going to do a role on any show, give it to someone that has talent, has potential. And my big fear is, especially last night, and I got my fingers crossed, and they were doing the interplay with her and Madison. I'm like, please tell me they're not going to have her and Madison feud. Please tell me that's not going to happen, because I don't want to see Brooke ring. I'm hopeful that I was just meant to be kind of an end around so they could get Brooke in the ring so Aces and Eights could do their stuff, and you could have oh my God, now are they going to do something to her?
Right. And, but yeah, aside from those two things, really, I mean, Impact's been really good lately, and the pay-per-views have been good. And, you know, finishing up on the pay-per-view, I thought Aries and Rude had a very good match. It didn't have the special ending that the Destination X match did. It couldn't. And it didn't have the same spark going in. Again, it couldn't, by virtue of just being a rematch. But it was a very good match, and I thought the ending was really good. They swerved us by making us think they were going to swerve us, and then they didn't swerve us, if that makes any sense. But it all came out, it worked really well.
Well, I mean, we're all at a stage where, you know what, we all know the magic tricks, ladies and gentlemen. And you're like, well, yeah, if I had to pick what's going to happen, what's probably going to happen is Rude's going to do something heelish, and he's going to hit, Aries with the belt or a beer bottle, get the 1, 2, 3. I'm like, okay, that's how it's going to happen. And then they did the thing with Aries' wrist. I'm like, he's going to be, there it is. He didn't get the 450, so Rude's going to pin him off of that. No, and then it's like, okay, it's this double pin thing, and even though this was supposed to be the final battle, they'll do it at no surrender. Nope. And then it was like, oh my God, Aries just knocked himself out going for that suicide dive, and it's like, that's over. Okay, this is how Rude gets the belt. No, and then it's like he gets the rope, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty well done, because, again, I was groaning when they did the double pin. I'm like, really, are they doing this? And no, I think they were trying to, like, play with our expectations a little bit, and they're sticking to their guns. I hope that I don't think Aries needs to defend the title at the next pay-per-view. I don't think that's necessary, because they can let the Bound for Glory series and the Aces and Eights storyline, if they need to, kind of carry that pay-per-view and just not defend the belt until Bound for Glory.
I would actually,
which we've talked about we talked about that with how WWE should do that between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, just not defend the WWE title.
Absolutely, and as far as I'm concerned, the only role Austin Aries needs to have at like No Surrender is maybe bring him out as a guest commentator for the Bound for Glory series matches, and have him just sit up there with Mike and Taz and have the belt and just talk about it. It's like, oh man, this guy's gonna do this. But it's like, I don't know. I think I could take good old Bully Ray there. I did it once. Have that. And because I do think it actually adds more if you do take time off from having the belt defended. I obviously don't want to have a 6-month time period where they don't defend it, but it's like 1 month will be fine, especially because the selling point to the No Surrender pay-per-view is perfect to just be who's going to get the shot at the biggest pay-per-view of the year. I mean, there would be times where, it's like nobody really cared about the WWF title match at the Royal Rumble because the Royal Rumble was the big selling point.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. Well, I remember last year's No Surrender. I thought the match between Bobby Roode and Bully Ray was the emotional climax of the pay-per-view. It was like, all right, that was really cool. And then after that, they did a 3-way between Angle, Sting, and Anderson for the belt. And I'm like, we all know Angle's going to retain, so what's the point?
Exactly.
I mean, nobody really, and again, nobody really cared about the match for that reason, because like we all know Angle's going to win.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. I mean, it's like, let's not have the belt be defended. I mean, let's just I feel like it will make the Bound for Glory main event mean bigger because it's like you have to wait to see the world champion again, and you can have Aries, do stuff. I mean, he's definitely involved with the Aces and Eights angle, so I mean, that's your hook to keep him on the show regularly. Absolutely.
But, mostly praises and joy thrown at TNA. Hopefully they're able to keep this role that they're going on. Hopefully they're able to keep on going. But maybe right now, unless you have something else to say about TNA, maybe we can shift gears to the WWE and talk about SummerSlam.
Yeah, let's talk about the 25th edition of SummerSlam, because it's a bit of a point with Patrick that it is not the anniversary of SummerSlam.
It's not, and somebody reminded me of this. There's a joke in Futurama where Morbo, who's the green alien news reporter who just constantly yells, threatening things, you beauty humans are doomed, and things of that nature. There's an episode where he yells at his co-anchor, saying, "Windmills do not work that way." It's like, well, if I could talk to Vince McMahon, I would say, "Vince, anniversaries do not work that way. Good night." Or something like that. And, it's true. It's like, I cannot believe that he blatantly uses this word incorrectly. So either he's ignorant and he doesn't know, or he assumes that everybody else is ignorant and just, plays stupid people.
I mean, personally, if you want to make a big deal that this is the 25th SummerSlam, just call it the 25th edition or the 25th, 25th ever SummerSlam. I mean, Light it up. I mean, it is a big accomplishment. This event has lasted 25 years. Do a special logo and everything for it. But you know what? Don't just don't use the wrong word to describe it.
Well, I mean, it seems like this, and believe it or not, I mean, it seems like this that prevent people from taking wrestling seriously because they just operate on a much lower brainwave than most other forms of entertainment. Believe it or not, or at least the better forms of entertainment. I mean, you'll never see like the NFL do anything like this. I mean, when the Super Bowl 40 rolled around, they didn't call it the 40th anniversary of the Super Bowl.
Well, I'll take this a little bit. A couple weeks ago on Raw, they did an angle where Sheamus stole Alberto Del Rio's car, and the whole time I'm watching that, I'm thinking, okay, what's the explanation?
Oh, did we lose Nick? Nick, you there? I think we lost him, but I think we'll wait for Nick to call back in. But I think what Nick was going to bring up was the whole angle they did where Sheamus he borrowed Alberto Del Rio's car and proceeded to post count videos of him driving around town with a stolen car. And I'm sure Nick was thinking this, and I was thinking the same thing where, okay, why hasn't Alberto Del Rio called the cops? And why is Sheamus making videos of this? I'm like, this could be entered as court evidence. If I were Del Rio, I'd be like, oh, dude, you're digging your own grave. I'm going to put you away for a long time, boy. But, and one of the major problems with the WWE right now is the fact that Raw's gone to 3 hours, in my opinion. I feel like the show just drags. And it's so obvious to me that they're really stretching for time every single week that they've done this. Segments will go longer than they need to. The recaps are longer than they need to be. The stupid tout videos with the fans, I'm sorry, they're terrible. There's no need for them to be there, and I think Nick just called back in. Nick, you with us?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I'm here too, by the way, guys.
Oh, hi, James.
I got cut down.
Like we kind of. You got what?
I got cut down in my prime.
You did? Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nick was telling me that there's no improving Brooke Hogan, and then all of a sudden he was gone.
No, you were gone.
Well, everything went gone, and then I got called away, so I said, oh, what the hell, I'll be right back. But yeah, no, I got disconnected too shortly thereafter.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, man. So, well, everybody's back now. So we're talking WWE at the moment, so yeah.
Cool. WWE, I'm not enthused. I got to be honest. I'm just not enthused by much that they're doing. It doesn't seem like we've seen more action out of 3 hours of Raw. It just seems like we've seen the same boring shit stretched out longer to make it even more boring.
Hold it. Aren't you Mr. We all just need to calm the fuck down and enjoy it for what it is, and whatever they're putting out there, we just need to stop nitpicking about it, and John Cena needs to get more credit because he's out there trying. I'm sorry, James, but you know what? You've been calling that shit for weeks now, saying shit like that. And you know what? The issue isn't that we're nitpicking it. The issue is that it's a bad show, not worth watching. Don't tell people to calm down. You yourself just admitted you're not enthused about the card.
I'm not enthused by it, but here's why I'm not. My hope was, okay, well, now they got 3 hours. Maybe now we'll get to see, God, this is horrible. I can't even remember his name. The guy who was getting beat by all the legends every freaking week.
Oh, Heath Slater?
Heath Slater. Well, maybe we'll get to see Heath Slater go in there with Joe Blow from Bumblefuck, Wyoming, and actually hit a finishing move and actually start building some wins. They might not mean much, these wins, but start building wins and then start seeing more of these little squash matches to try to give some credibility to guys that basically have none. Instead, what we see is longer segments of the same bullshit.
Right.
And that's what's disappointing to me.
Yeah, we also have Roddy Piper coming out, clearly not on his medication, having done a Piper's Pit every night in his hotel room, thinking of the Lamp Hulk Hogan, and he starts chanting Jericho, Jericho, Jericho when Dolph Ziggler's making his entrance.
Yeah, he was saying Y2J over and over again while The Miz was coming out too.
It's like,
Piper had one decent line in the entire
drunk.
thing. He had to be drunk, or if he wasn't drunk, he's just lost it.
He just lost it. Look, I love Roddy Piper. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, despite some of the things I say about him. But the man lost it over a decade ago, right? He has his good days, he has his bad days. But the guy has always been borderline insane, and he went over the borderline many, many years ago, and he had a couple of good days the last couple times he's appeared, apparently, or at least that's what some people are saying. And tonight, and last Monday, we got the example of he had a really bad day. I'm sorry, that's been Roddy Piper since 1996. I mean, it was almost as bad as the freaking Alcatraz promo.
You didn't like the Alcatraz promo?
I don't even remember that. What is that?
The Alcatraz promo when he was getting ready for Super Brawl in 1997.
Yep.
He went to Alcatraz, the famous prison, and said, Hogan, I'm going to lock myself in here in Alcatraz, and I'm going to be getting ready for you. I'm going to be insane. I'm going to be ready to go, because, you know, here in Alcatraz, we do our push-ups every day. And he gets down, he starts doing push-ups. It was like, oh, wow. And then the beginning of the pay-per-view is him getting freed from the cell, running out onto a barge, standing on top of the barge, yelling, Hogan! A la Rocky yelling Drago after he climbs up the mountain in Rocky IV.
That actually sounds kind of awesome, actually.
It was. I liked that. That's why I said you didn't like that. I actually liked that.
Patrick, it's awesome in the way the room is awesome to watch. I.e., it's so crazy and so insane, you're left wondering, who gave this guy money?
And then Piper looks down at the water from the barge, by the way. This is how the segment ends. He goes, and he touches the water, and he goes, ooh, sharks. I like sharks. And that's how it fades to black, and then you start the pay-per-view.
How do I
not remember this?
I love Piper, James, but the guy is insane. He's one of those guys that needs a lot of checks and balances. To be
fair, Nick, though, on the same Super Bowl kick, that match was probably equally as who booked this.
Well, yeah, because I think it was clear they didn't want to put the belt on Piper, but then they felt like, but then it was like, well, what are we going to do? I mean, it just wasn't that good. I mean, it was a bad match, and unfortunately, it also kind of had just a strange ending where suddenly Savage decided he was going to be in the NWO.
The strange ending, yeah, the strange ending, by the way, was Piper put Hogan to sleep.
I remember that.
Yeah, the referee rings the bell. Piper's holding the belt over his head. Savage grabs Hogan by the foot and pulls him under the ropes, and then starts showing the referee, he was under the ropes, and they restart the match, and Hogan throws a haymaker punch with a object that Savage put in his hand, a 1, 2, 3. The only cool part of that, other than Savage joining the NWO, which for me was awesome, was that you could hear a little girl in the crowd, every clap of the hand of the referee, no! Each time, like really loudly, and those who doubt me, go find it on YouTube or pop your tape in. It's awesome. You just hear, no!
Oh, that's amazing.
Let me just say this to all wrestling companies, it's a good idea to mic the crowd to get that response, to hear what they're saying. But if you find that the mic has been placed by a particularly annoying person, for the love of God, you get that a lot in wrestling, where you get that one person whose voice just screeches out above all else. Sometimes it's not that bad, but other times it's like, okay, shut this person up.
What's that ticking in the background?
What's the what?
Can anybody hear that ticking?
Could be the overhead fan I have on. Hold on.
I don't hear any ticking. So yeah, somehow we ended up. No, the Raw was just. And the thing is, SmackDown is a program I probably should enjoy more than I do, but it just is so boring that I don't care.
I'll be honest. I can count on one hand the number of times I've watched SmackDown since Punk lost the title in 2009.
It's just it is just wrestling, and for all the people who insist, we want just wrestling, well, that is it. I don't think any of us want Raw to be like that dry and boring, but I think if you have 3 hours, you have the opportunity to do things where you just have, so-and-so against a jobber, and it doesn't just have to be Ryback doing it. By the way, kudos to the audience for starting to chant Goldberg.
But I'm going to say this, James. It's not that so often with wrestling on the net, I'm seeing all these things, and I call them magic wand solutions, where people convince themselves, oh, all they have to do is do this, and then everything will be fine. The simple truth is, to have a good wrestling show, there are a variety of things that go into it, how it's written, how people are performing it, yada, yada, yada. There isn't a magic solution where it's like, well, suddenly if you go for nothing but just pure wrestling matches, that's not going to work. If you do no wrestling matches, that's not going to work. It's, when people keep saying, oh, all they need to do is go back to the Attitude Era, then everything will be fine. No, that's not how it works. The simple truth is you have to write good stories, you have to have them make sense, and you have to have good people performing them.
Look, if you want to have proof that going back to the attempt of the Attitude Era doesn't work, watch 2003 and 2004.
Thank you.
Right. Well, in a lot of ways, the Attitude Era never really left.
Right.
I mean, the format's basically the same.
And like I'll say this, we had a wonderful interview with Rock and Roll Buck Zumhofe, and he was describing, his independent wrestling promotion, how he does it. What happened is, just listening to Buck, it sounds like he found a formula that works for the area he's in, the people that are coming to his shows. I don't know if you could take that similar formula and make it work on a more like large scale area, or I could bring it to Nebraska and make that work on terms of being an independent company. And I don't think you could go national with it, but it's always got to be a thing in motion. There's never going to be an aha moment where it's like, aha, I found it. That means all my shows will be good forever. I mean, TNA this year we were talking about how they made improvements. The simple truth is they made a lot of changes, both I think in-ring and backstage. Something has changed backstage, and I think we're seeing it translate in the ring and on the show where, it's working, but you can't ever rest on your laurels.
No.
So I understand with the WWE, it's like, if we went back to any, the simple truth is they want a good show. You know what? Stop having everyone be just a big birthday entertainer baby face. That would be a huge start. Let guys get an edge back. There's so many things you could do to improve that show, and I wish that if they had gone to 3 hours, maybe they would have done more squash matches, because you know what? That would have given us a mid-card or a lower card back. But, I mean, there are so many titles that mean nothing right now. I mean, does anyone really care about the U.S. or the Intercontinental Championships?
Does anybody care about the world title?
No, I mean,
Why are there two world titles?
That's what the angle is supposed to be about, but nobody seems to get the angle.
I don't understand why Sheamus isn't in jail.
Well,
it's wrestling, Patrick. If The Undertaker can bury Paul Bearer alive in concrete and still be walking around, and Kane can apparently throw his father off a platform and have him crash and then lock him in a freezer and still be walking around, I guess you can just steal a Ferrari.
How many times has Paul Bearer been killed?
more times than Terry Funk is retired.
Oh.
No, you're right, Nick. It's not a simple fix. And a lot of the reasons why TNA has managed to get, and I'm not going to say that TNA is the greatest show on earth, because it isn't. There's, we've already discussed, room for improvement.
Well, there's still improvements that have to be made.
Yeah, there's a lot of improvements that have to be made, and that's the case with any show, really. The bottom line, though, is their format is much more simple, and as such doesn't require as much tweaking as the WWE juggernaut machine would require tweaking for the shows to be different than what they are. I say, look, if they do squash matches, it would be better. I'm not saying if they do squash matches, it's going to be back to, great, we're back to 1988 again, and everything's going to be fine.
Well, let's be honest, they were still doing squash matches in 95, and the show was horrible. So
exactly. No, there's a way that it's a matter of how you do them, too. I mean, the show was horrible in 95, you're right, because you're watching Hakuchi against, Jesus Christ, I don't even remember who was there at that point, against Bob Holly, and it's just like, wow, this is fucking horrible.
Oh,
but, Nothing against those two guys, but you weren't booked to give a rat's ass about either of them.
And let me just bring something up that I remember, and I've heard it talked about a few times, with when Vince Russo was booking the WWE. Vince Russo would say, when Ed Ferrara and I were doing WWE, we would plan out angles for almost everybody. You would have Crash Holly had something going on. The Hardy Boys had something going on. Val Venus had something going on. The Rock had something going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, you always had guys that were used more as jobbers. You had guys that maybe weren't used at a particular time. But there was a general effort to concentrate over a wide variety of people and have you hooked throughout that whole show. Today, it does seem like all they really care about are the quote-unquote main eventers. I mean, this past Monday on Raw is a perfect example where it's like the last half hour was all about the Brock Lesnar Triple H feud and having Shawn Michaels get his arm broken. It's like you realistically could have done that in about 15 minutes, and you're like
I said, you get the extra hour, and they just stretch everything out longer.
Right, and
They stretched that over 3 commercial breaks.
Patrick
that was almost as bad as when Ric Flair got destroyed and was the chicken that wouldn't die from Family Guy. Hit him in the head with a sledgehammer again. Jesus Christ, just die.
Which, James, I absolutely loved your line on Monday. James and I both kind of post little comments on the Facebook page whenever we feel like it. It's he goes, Brock Lesnar, former UFC champion and kidnapper, ... He's not a kidnapper. He's a heartbreak kidnapper.
But
I had fun. Sometimes I come out with these little Bobby Heenan things.
That was hilarious. Like I laughed for a good 2 minutes just looking at that because I was like, yeah, that's probably the funniest thing I've seen Raw related tonight. Yeah,
I got a few likes on there too, which is sometimes people get pissy with you when you're bashing WWE. It's like there's this holy grail that can't be touched sometimes, and I don't understand it.
Well, there's always been that sort of like internet bias towards the WWE, where they like everything they do, there's always an excuse for it, and that kind of bugs me.
Right. Well, I'll say this: I think our little group, the people we have on Facebook, I think primarily because I'm so strong and pro TNA, and I will yell at you if you don't like TNA or you try to, criticize it unfairly. I think we have a group that's kind of more open to at least seeing, okay, WWE isn't perfect and TNA will put on good shows. I mean, I think we have a good little group of people that contribute to that pretty regularly, and I thank all of them.
Yeah. I think that what we have on I think you just hit the nail on the head. WWE is king, but I think TNA does put on better shows, and that's just the fact of the matter. By the way, I am going to go to Bound for Glory, so...
Have you bought your tickets?
I have not bought tickets. I can get into this... How can I get into this slowly? I'm selling my other house, and basically, once I know for sure that the money's going to be in the bank at a certain time, which is potentially by the end of the month, I will definitely be purchasing tickets then. I'm just a little bit afraid of doing it now and then saying, oh, they backed out of the deal, and I'm like, fuck, I just spent money I don't have. And to be fair, I didn't even buy T-shirts at the KISS concert I went to last week. I was smart. They wanted $45 for a T-shirt. I couldn't justify it. So I came home and I bought them online for $22 off of Live Nation.
Yeah, you should never spend more than $25 for a shirt.
No, absolutely.
Unless the thing fucking lights up.
Like a Chris Jericho jacket.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently he's leaving it. This preview of SummerSlam has been so in-depth and analytical.
Yeah, we have not talked about SummerSlam at all. Let's go into the card here, which, as I said at the start, step in the right direction for WWE. They have a card, 7 matches announced. That's a record for them in recent, the last year and a half or so, where it feels like they'll have 4 matches signed and the rest of it is just bullshit bonus matches that nobody gives a shit about because they didn't bother to announce them.
Right. Unfortunately, Patrick, it seems like they're going to cut some of those matches short because they want some guy by the name of Kevin Rudolph who sings one of the songs they're using for the commercial to do the full song, which no concerts at wrestling shows. You know what? It's a bad idea. It doesn't work. Don't do live bands at wrestling shows. If I want to see a concert, I'll go to a concert. If I want to watch wrestling, I'll watch wrestling.
Well, it's kind of the whole halftime show thing with the Super Bowl where it really just serves as a bathroom break. I mean, it's really all it's for. And it's for the people who are not, football fans who are at Super Bowl parties. Well, they got something to enjoy. But for me, it's just a piss break.
It is. The Super Bowl show, by the way, I have to rant. I don't think we did this during one of our shows.
No, stop. You know what?
Quick. How is it a good musical break? How is it a good musical performance when nobody performed any music, the person singing lip-synced, and the people in the background were actually just swearing? How is that a good musical performance? When nobody performed music, there was no instruments anywhere. It was all done through a stereo system. The person who was supposed to be singing was actually lip-syncing, and the person who actually did have a live mic kept swearing in the background. How is that a good musical performance? Because I don't follow. It was Madonna.
I don't know. I didn't see it. I didn't care. I was pissing.
Ladies and gentlemen, come back next week when James Walsh will discuss his problems with the cinema year of 2008. It's freaking August. Look, I get your point, James, but it's August. It's over and done with.
Yeah, most people don't even remember it. Supposedly it's going to be Van Halen this year, by the way, so that should be interesting.
I don't know how they're going to do that since David Lee Roth on Facebook just posted a long-winded rant where he said, fuck Eddie, fuck Alex, I'm done, never again. I play my own goddamn music from here on out. Fuck it all.
He'll be back. Money talks.
Money talks and bullshit talks. Anyway, SummerSlam card. All right, I just looked at the card right before we started. Let's start. Okay, we have a tag team championship match. Kofi Kingston and R-Truth defending the titles against the Primetime Players who will not have AW in their corner due to the recent events that led to his firing.
Yeah.
Which to me kills any interest I had in this match because he was the one character I kind of liked.
Well, you know what? You're going to have to do a lot more with the tag team division to get me to care than just throw this out there. I mean, honestly, the only matches I've seen the Primetime Players actually win or even finish are the number one contenders match. It seems like every other time they just bail out. So it's like...
Well, they keep talking like, the commentators keep saying this, is that, they're going to be the future tag team champions. And I'm like, Epico and Primo beat them at least twice. And I'm just thinking, shouldn't they be the number one contenders? I'm just saying, they won more matches. I'm just throwing that out there. Just saying.
I mean, really the only guy in this match I even like is Kofi. So, you know what, it's like, I really don't care.
Yeah, and the matches haven't impressed me that much. They've wrestled each other a few times on TV, and the matches have been kind of weak sauce. The only thing I cared about was AW, because it was kind of a recreation of Jimmy Hart in a way, where they gave him a live mic. I thought it was great. Unfortunately, he made one Kobe Bryant joke that I personally wasn't offended by, to be perfectly honest. And then he went on Twitter and made a joke about Linda's campaign, and that was enough to get him fired, which I think is kind of ridiculous on WWE's part, considering some of the things that they've done recently. Cough, cough, Vince making fun of JR having Bell's palsy. Cough, 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 cough. But, yeah, all right, whatever.
Well, that's just, I guess, how it's going to be. I mean, so, who really cares? You know what? I predict that the Primetime Players will win the Tag Team Championships, and then they'll go to the Magic Hat, another name out of it, and Kofi will regain them with his new tag team partner, because that kind of seems the pattern in the WWE.
Actually, I'm going to predict that Kofi and Truth win, because I think that AW's behavior is going to reflect on the Primetime Players, and they're going to, get flushed down the drain.
Okay, those are the predictions. Unless James has one, but of course he's probably getting ready to rant about Napster or something.
James, you there? He must have stepped away. Okay, next match, Intercontinental Championship. The Miz defending the title against Rey Mysterio. I mean, what is there to say? The match will be good just because of who's involved, but there's no feud, and the IC title has once again been reduced to the belt that we give to former world champions when we have no idea what to do with them.
Yep.
I mean, that's, yeah.
I'll predict Mysterio to win it since he's a babyface and they're going to make pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm just upset that it's like, you have something good going with the IC title with Cody heading into WrestleMania, and then you flush that down the drain. And it's like, I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth it, all the things that you've done with it since then. But, yeah, whatever. Then we have Daniel Bryan versus Kane. Now, two things here. Number one, and even though I was not looking forward to having him on the show at all, I was hoping that at least having Charlie Sheen on the show, which I thought they were going to do, was going to give Daniel Bryan some media attention, but nothing happened. So I was like, well, all right, so there goes that. And every week they just seem to humiliate Daniel Bryan to the point that it's like, I kind of feel sorry for him, actually. I'm like, he's supposed to be the quote-unquote heel. It's like, but he never gets over it. It's kind of like the Heath Slater thing where it's like, oh, he's the bad guy and the Legends need to get their revenge. And I'm like, revenge for what? He gets beat up every week. And Daniel Bryan's kind of in that same place.
Yeah, I mean, it's this weird WWE strategy they have with the heels sometimes where it's like, okay, the heel's going to be humiliated, the heel's going to lose, the heel's going to get beat up, and then at the pay-per-view, the heel's going to do the job. Why aren't these heels getting over?
Yeah, and Daniel Bryan, credit to him for making as much of a spark as he has within the WWE, but you got to look at it. He has not won a pay-per-view match since February. He got jobbed out horribly at WrestleMania. He lost again in April. He lost to Punk twice. And every week, he just seems to get humiliated more and more to the point that it's like, look, this guy's not getting any traction here, so I would guess give him the win here. I would think they would, but, it never, for some reason, Kane is one of those guys that never goes away, and I wouldn't be shocked if he won, but, whatever. I see no reason to have Kane win at this point.
I fully expect Kane to win because he was in the Attitude Era. That seems to be their logic a lot of times, and it's that, like we said, it's like the heels have to do the job because it's going to send the fans home happy, even though the heel has not gotten any traction in months. So, I expect Kane to win, especially because WWE's ongoing quest to make me hate them.
All right. Next match, and I actually think this is going to be a pretty good match. This is one of the few matches I'm actually really kind of excited about. Chris Jericho versus Dolph Ziggler. What I like about this is that Ziggler, who they're going to push to the world title, he's going to win the belt. We know that because he's got Money in the Bank. So, all right, the belt's in his future. They're having him work with a guy in Chris Jericho, a nice star. And Jericho, okay, where Kane is one of those guys that never goes away and always wins when he shouldn't, Jericho is not that guy. And I never worry. Jericho never wins when he shouldn't. And I've always kind of respected that about Jericho because he knows when it's stupid for him to win. He basically admitted, it's like, look, I came back just so I could put Punk over at Mania. That's pretty much it. So, from what I understand, this is his last show, right, for this run?
I guess. Apparently he's going to, the reports are he's got a tour booked with his band Fozzy, so, yeah, this appears to be it.
Okay, so Jericho and Ziggler, they can have a really good match. I expect them to mesh well. And then Jericho will put Ziggler over, and it'll be fine. It's just good standard booking 101, and you'll get a good match out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I have not cared much for Jericho during this feud. I just have not. I don't know, there's something missing, and I think part of it is just that even if he's good, he's still the same old Chris Jericho, and I can't get behind it and enjoy it. So, I don't really care. I feel like they've just not used Dolph properly in so long, and as good as the match is, I keep having this vision where it's like, of course they're going to cut to Vicky Guerrero every 5 seconds so they can show her reacting to everything. So I personally just can't get excited for this match because of all the outside things to it, but I hope Dolph wins. I hope they are smart. They do have him go over, and then, he looks good going into his eventual world title reign.
Right, absolutely. Speaking of the world title, we have the World Heavyweight Championship being defended on this show. It is Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio. I did read the SmackDown spoilers correct, right?
Yeah. Which, by the way, talk about a stupid idea. Last week, you have Del Rio do something so heinous, so evil, that you have Booker T going, well, Alberto Del Rio is not going to get his world title match, sucker! And then this week it's like, okay, he gets it after all. It's like, Gee, thanks. That was a great misdirection. I was so enthused by it.
It was a shitty version of what they did with Punk last year, actually. When they did it with Punk and Cena last year, it was awesome. This year, it just felt like, who really cares? And to be perfectly honest, can anybody honestly tell me that they're excited about this match? Does anybody really care about these characters? Does anybody really, truly care about the world title at this point? There shouldn't be 2 world titles. I say that all the time. And they had a match last month, and it wasn't that good. Why are they doing it again? I don't know. I don't care. I just let it, just apathy, sheer apathy for this match. I don't care about Del Rio. I don't care about Sheamus. I think Del Rio's the babyface in this whole thing after, and even the car hood incident that they like to keep showing, Sheamus instigated the fight there. So in my eyes, it's like, no, Alberto was just defending himself. I don't care. So in my mind, Alberto's the babyface in this thing. So, yeah, Sheamus retains. You might see Dolph cash in the Money in the Bank after the match. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. But yeah, Sheamus retains, and I just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I expect, you know what, I expect Dolph to walk away with the belt at the end of the show anyway, so it doesn't matter who goes over.
Exactly. So, and then the other world title match we have, it's a WWE Championship match, triple threat match. It'll be Cena, Big Show, and CM Punk. And this seems to be a common theme with what we're talking about here. Building up heels. I'm like, okay, you don't like Big Show, Nick. I know that. But, and I'm one of those guys who's like, look, I saw him with his runs in 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2002, whatever. I've seen Big Show. It's over. But, all right, if you're going to give him a monster push, could you at least book it well? That's all. Okay, I'll meet me halfway and at least book it well. And they keep trying to tell us he's the number 1 pick in this match. He's the favorite, and he's an unstoppable monster. And I'm sitting here like, number 1, he gets his ass kicked all the time. Number 2, I'm thinking back in my memory banks here, I can't remember the last time he won a match except for when he went on that run leading into the cage match with Cena. Aside from that, I mean, between then and now, I don't recall a single match that he won.
Exactly. And, I'll agree with you on that. If you're going to do this, I'm going to give a guy a monster push. Book it well. They didn't book it well, and I just don't care about John Cena. Apparently, this will finally be the main event, so at least Punk is back in the main event for this. I don't know. I mean, it's like they're trying to make it so that, Big Show's the big heel, and he's the monster, and Punk's the heel because he's better. I'm like, I'll be honest, I agree with most of the things CM Punk is saying. That's a problem you have sometimes with wrestling where you book a guy to be a heel, but you know what? Sometimes what he's saying actually makes him come off more as the babyface, and then I don't care.
You run that risk whenever you feud somebody with John Cena. I mean, that's just what happens. The other guy just winds up becoming the face because so many fans can't stand John Cena.
Right, and you know what? I'll say this. At least a one-on-one match with Punk and Cena has shown to be pretty decent in the past, and Punk can usually get something decent out of Cena. Adding Big Show to there is kind of like just throwing, bricks on a guy before he tries to, do a high jump. It's not going to help.
Right, and this just feels like a prelude until we get Cena and Punk on pay-per-view one-on-one again, which, we've got Rock versus the champion at Royal Rumble. Personally, I'm like, if Punk has to lose the title to Cena to make Punk and Rock at Mania happen, because that's what I want. I want Punk and Rock to happen at Mania, not at the Royal Rumble. If Punk has to lose the title to Cena to make that happen, fine, whatever, I'll go with it. But I do find it weird, again, talking about the build-up. They're building up a heel turn for Punk, yet he's already turned heel. Or at least I thought he did. They seem to be building up a heel turn that already happened.
Well, I'll say this. If there's one guy I think that could pull off kind of the tweener approach in pro wrestling, and it's one of those things that if you're going to do it, you have to do it with the right guy, it's CM Punk. I think they're kind of trying to work with like that where it's like, okay, he's kind of a bad guy, but he's not as bad as Big Show, or I think that's what they're going for. I'm in agreement with you. It's like if they're going to have Punk lose the title, then it better be that they're going to build up to Punk versus Rock at Mania, because I think that would be a great match for WrestleMania. So I do think that's here, mainly because he's also on the poster for Night of Champions.
Yeah, I'll pick Punk to retain here and then lose it in September. That's probably what they'll do, because this just feels like a prelude to Cena Punk again. So this almost feels like a Raw match before a pay-per-view match, kind of. And it's because of Big Show's involvement. Again, I'm not ragging on Big Show. I'm just ragging on the way he's booked. He doesn't belong in a title match. But, yeah, that's this match. And then we got Brock Lesnar versus Triple H, which I have to say, and a lot of it has to do with Paul Heyman's involvement. This is by far the best built match on the show. And I'm actually genuinely interested in seeing what happens.
Well, I'll give them credit. They built it up well, and they didn't rush it. We saw the buildings of it happen back at the beginning of the summer when you did the whole angle with Brock came back and he was going to sign his big contract, and then Triple H was like, no, look, it's not going to be Monday Night Raw starring Brock Lesnar. You're not going to get to call your own shots. You're not going to get this. You're not going to get that. You're going to sign the original contract we offered you, and that's it. And then you saw Brock break his arm. They built it up well. And, yeah, Paul Heyman has been a great addition to this because he can play the smarmy lawyer and just let Lesnar stand there and look big and intimidating.
Right, and that's the big knock that everybody has on Brock is that the dude can't talk. Well, he doesn't have to. He's got Paul Heyman to talk for him. And when Paul Heyman talks for him, it is awesome. Paul Heyman, one of the best mic workers around today, and in my opinion, he really demonstrates the value of good managers.
Absolutely. I'll agree with that. And you know what? I'll give them credit. I mean, I feel like they executed it horribly because of how they had to stretch it out, but doing the move where Brock hurts Shawn Michaels, brilliant, and it adds more tension to the match.
Right, I guess Shawn Michaels got tugboated. Because, you know, he was supposed to be in Hogan's corner at SummerSlam 1990, and that didn't work out so well.
Yeah. Well, at least he didn't get shockmastered.
Right. But, yeah, that's the card for SummerSlam. And, predictions for this match? I have a fear that Triple H might win, but I think that would be utterly stupid. Brock Lesnar absolutely needs to go over here. If they want to get some big matches out of him and build him up for a big match down the road at WrestleMania, he has to win the rest of his matches between now and then.
Well, I'll say this, Patrick. The logical thing to do would be Brock Lesnar wins. But the logical thing to do would have been for Brock Lesnar to beat John Cena. And we're also dealing with the Triple H ego. I will trust my gut that tells me Triple H is such an egomaniac, he will not let Brock Lesnar go over. So I'm going to Triple H will win this match because he's Triple H. He's the king of kings, damn it.
Well, I'll say this. If Triple H wins this match, there's no reason to bring Brock back. None. You pretty much ruined it. You've ruined the mystique. You know, once Ivan and okay, Cena beat him, and I rolled my eyes when they did it, but they recovered moderately well when they had Brock break Triple H's arm the next night. So it was like, all right, I'll go with this. But if he loses to Triple H here, I mean, why even bring him back? Because he doesn't look like a threat.
Exactly, but I just don't trust the Triple H ego. I can't bring myself to do it. I know, and people are going to say, well, it's been a long time since he put himself in the main event. Like, yeah, but he's still Triple H. So, yeah, I honestly do believe Triple H will go over.
I'm going to pick Brock just because. Yeah, I'm going to pick Brock just because that's the smart thing to do.
All right, so that is pretty much it for SummerSlam. Yeah, there's some good things. Well, I mean, we really don't. There's been some problems with the card. There's some potential, but like we'll ultimately see what happens this Sunday. Talk about Patrick. What about you?
Right. Well, I'm actually going to be seeing the pay-per-view this Sunday, so I'll probably next time we do the show, I'll probably be able to give my thoughts on it. Again, baby steps in the right direction. They actually have a full card this time, so there might only be one bonus match added, which is, again, an improvement. Hopefully they're able to get to a point where they have no bonus matches thrown in, because that really does annoy me. But, yeah, I'm going to check out the show. We'll review it next week. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Nick, before we go?
Not really. I know James is probably working on his problems with the economic climate circa 1996.
He might be. Yeah, James, things bother him, and he's just got to vent. It doesn't matter when or where they happened. He's just got to talk about them. So, all right. Well, thank you for being with me here, Nick, and thank you to James Walsh for setting up the interview, and thank you for all of you for listening. We will be back probably sometime next week to talk about SummerSlam. If not, I promise you we'll be back in the near future, and thank you, everybody, for listening, and enjoy your weekend.